Hello and welcome back to Bible Talk with Bruce and Becky. We've been praying that you and yours have not suffered from the severe weather that's been plaguing our country. Speaking of plagues, we'll continue with plagues of punishment that God's bringing on the earth in the book of Revelation. We're ready for chapter 17.
Did you
Becky,
say 17?
I had something in my eye. Chapter 17. Becky, will you read the first 7 verses or so?
Then one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls came and said to me, "Come, I will show you the judgment of the great prostitute who is seated on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed sexual immorality, and with the wine of whose sexual immorality the dwellers on earth have become drunk." And he carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was full of blasphemous names, and it had 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and jewels and pearls, holding in her hand a golden cup of abominations and the impurities of her sexual immorality. And on her forehead was written the name of Mystery, Babylon the Great, mother of prostitutes and of earth's abominations. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints, the blood of the martyrs of Jesus.
Okay. This is the second important woman that we had been introduced to in this book. Back in chapter 12, we met the woman who stood for God's faithful people. But here is a great prostitute who is identified with Babylon, which stands symbolically for Rome in this book, but can stand for any great worldly power that is persecuting and punishing God's people. Let's look closer at some of the descriptions of the woman. She is twice said to have committed sexual immorality with the kings of the earth and the dwellers on the earth, that is, the people who follow the beast. She's seated on many waters, which stands for many people, probably. And he goes into the wilderness where he sees a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was full of blasphemous names, and it had 7 heads and 10 horns. What would that indicate, Becky? Blasphemous names, 7 heads, 10 horns. Well, what is blasphemy?
Well, it's spewing out things against God.
Right. It's taking to itself things that belong to God and using them, making that blasphemy. The heads and horns would stand for great power and great intelligence. This is all part of the Antichrist Trinity, I will call it in this book. The dragon and the 2 beasts, and this woman is riding on one of the beasts. They're leading astray the people of the earth by imitating Christ, but in blasphemous ways. She's dressed in purple and scarlet and adorned with gold, jewels, and pearls. So she has
Wealth.
great wealth, great attractiveness. She is striking in appearance, and a golden cup full of abominations and the impurities of her fornication. And on her forehead was written the name of Mystery. What would a name of mystery mean in the Bible, the way it uses the term mystery?
Well, there's the mystery of salvation, and there's the mystery of.
There are different things referred to as mystery, including in Ephesians, the combining of Jews and Gentiles into one body. But the overall term mystery means something that was not revealed in the past and God is now revealing, but human beings wouldn't know it unless God told us. In that way, it's a mystery. And so her name of mystery on her forehead, some people claim that prostitutes in those days would wear their name across their forehead. I don't know if that's suggested here, but she's called Babylon the Great, mother of prostitutes and of the earth's abominations. She's not only a great prostitute, but she's the mother of them. The origin of all prostitution, which in the Bible refers primarily to
Idolatry.
idolatry, worshiping false gods, which in Rome and earlier in Greece could have actually meant sacred prostitution. That was part of their worship. And lest we look aghast,
Aghast?
and think those people were really wicked, it's not much worse than what we got now, if as bad, as far as the use of prostitution to lead people astray, yes.
Well, I'm considering to be an old fogey, Hollywood and the messages that they send out around the world. That, I mean, they're very attractive, they're beautiful, they're full of beautiful things, and they are all leading us away from the worship of God.
Well, you don't have to be an old fogey to suggest Hollywood is a part of this. The advertising industry can make use of this. Politicians can get drawn into or lead people into this kind of prostitution.
Sex sells.
But it's not, this prostitution is not just sex, although that's an important part of it. It's whatever you put ahead of God, because we are compared to God's bride in this book, the bride of Christ. We may remember the Old Testament prophet Hosea, whose wife went into prostitution, and he went and got her back, and the comparison was made that this was God and Israel. God's bride, Israel, had gone off after other gods. That's the condition that the church finds itself in here in the book of Revelation. And it would be easy to be led astray, so we're warned not to do that.
Well, I think about all the things that lure us away from getting together as a church on Sundays and becoming more so all the time. Whereas, you know, you put a lot of effort into getting your kids ready to go to this, that, or the other function for Girl Scouts or baseball or football or whatever, but you can't get up on Sunday morning and go to church.
You going to preaching?
Sorry.
But let's not limit church to what happens in a church building on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
This is God's people who can be allured by many things, not only to stay away from a church assembly, but to drift away from God and His purposes. And if I understand anything about Revelation, as we move closer to the end of time, it gets worse. Worse. And I can't predict the end of time, but I know we're closer than we ever have been before. So I will read on in chapter 17, beginning in the middle of verse 6. When I saw her, I marveled greatly. But the angel said to me, why do you marvel? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns that carries her. The beast that you saw was, and is not, and is about to rise from the abyss, or the bottomless pit, and go to destruction. And the dwellers on earth, whose names have not been written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, will marvel to see the beast, because it was, and is not, and is to come. This calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman is seated. There are also 7 kings, 5 of whom have fallen. One is, the other has not yet come. And when he does come, he must remain only a little while. As for the beast that was and is not, it is an 8th, but it belongs to the 7, and it goes to destruction. And the 10 horns that you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received royal power, but they are about to receive authority as kings for 1 hour, together with the beast. These are of one mind, and they hand over their power and authority to the beast. They will make war on the Lamb, and the Lamb will conquer them. For he is Lord of lords and King of kings. And those with him are called and chosen and faithful. Okay, Becky will quickly just explain to us about these different rulers and so on, about the heads of the beast, about the one who was and is not and is coming.
Is this a chronological timeline of history, of things past and things to come?
That's a good question. I thought you were explaining, not asking. It has to do with the various emperors of the Roman Empire, and maybe even others who are like them who will come along in history. But I'm going to recommend, and since I'm speaking more loudly at the moment, that we not get bogged down in figuring out who these different kings are.
I don't care who they are. I just want to know if this is going to be in the future.
This is in our past, but the future of the seven churches of Asia. How's that?
Gotcha. Okay.
And let me suggest, and it's not original with me, that the beast who was and is not and is about to rise, only to go to destruction, is Nero. Nero, whose number is 666, who they believed maybe had fled to the east to the Parthians and would come back leading an army of the enemies of Rome to conquer and take power again. But the beast is the beast, is the beast.
Yeah.
He was the beast in Rome. He's the beast of any nation and political and or religious system that claims first place in people's allegiance.
You see that old serpent?
He's serving that old serpent, the dragon, who has given him his power. But this is to help explain to the people in the seven churches of Asia things that are going to happen in Rome that will look like chaos, confusion, and destruction for the empire, but will turn out to be victory for the Lamb. In other words, I'm going to continue to emphasize that this is a war between good and evil. It will go through various phases. The political and religious powers of the world, of the earth, not of God, will be fighting against God's church all the way along. Now, if that doesn't satisfy you out there, who want to know who each one of these 5 kings or 7 kings or 8 kings are, send in a inquiries along with a postage paid return envelope, and I'll see if I can get back to you on that.
I'll have to type it, so.
But again, I don't want to get bogged down in all that. These emperors of Rome have come and gone, but the church is still here. But the enemy still have the power of the dragon, the power of this woman who leads leaders astray. Unless you doubt the contemporaneity of that, just pay attention to certain trials that are going on involving well-known politicians in our own day. But we won't get into that, except I think I can recognize the woman who's leading them astray. All right, Becky, anything you want to say before?
I wrote a book about that. We'll just have to
All right.
look me up on Amazon.
But remember, the Lamb will conquer all of these evil forces, verse 14. For he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and those with him are called and chosen and faithful. I hope all of us are among the called, chosen, and faithful, and will not listen to the siren song of these evil doers. Well, Becky, please read the rest of chapter 17, beginning in verse 15.
And the angel said to me, the waters that you saw, where the prostitute is seated, are peoples and multitudes and nations and languages. And the 10 horns that you saw, they and the beast will hate the prostitute. They will make her desolate and naked, and devour her flesh, and burn her up with fire. For God has put it into their hearts to carry out his purpose by being of one mind and handing over their royal power to the beast until the words of God are fulfilled. And the woman that you saw is the great city that has dominion over the kings of the earth. She sits on 7 hills.
Yep. Of course, they would have recognized, anybody reading that in the first century would have recognized the seven hills of Rome, and they would have known that the great city that had dominion over the kings of the earth would be Rome. But notice, just as we see the great power of Rome, in the very next chapter, Rome will be overthrown as we read about the fall of Babylon. Description taken from the Old Testament, especially Isaiah and Jeremiah, when the original Babylon that had power over the kings of the earth fell. Message for all wicked rulers, for all rulers who put themselves and their followers first and who persecute the people of God. You ain't going to win. Your destruction is announced and described. Notice that part of the fall of Rome comes from within the empire.
I was just seeing that.
These rulers who had been following the beast now turn on the great prostitute. Has actually happened as part of the fall of Rome. Not only did foreign powers, like the barbarians from the north, but there was civil war raging for many years in Rome. Because when you get power of the wrong kind, if I can give a little sermonette, you're not going to be able to be true to your own allies. I remember studying World War II when I was in college, and the Nazi Germans made a pact with the Soviet Union, Communist Russia and her allies, and hardly had the ink dried on their agreement when they turned on each other. Hitler invaded Russia, and it led to his own destruction. People who put anything other than God first are headed down a road of destruction, and don't join up with them, folks. Their allies that fall with them and sometimes bring about the destruction of the whole myth. Okay, I'm through preaching on that topic. Anything else you want to add or ask, Becky?
No. Nope.
Well, tune in again next time when we will see the fall of Babylon. And great will be the fall thereof. And the description fits not only Rome, but the original Babylon. And we'll see that every evil earthly empire, how's that for alliteration?
Every
Evil earthly empire has demonic spiritual forces behind it. They get their power from the great dragon, that ancient serpent who's called the devil and Satan. Doesn't mean that every ungodly ruler is a Satan worshiper, at least not consciously, but that's where the power comes from, because the book tells us there are only two kingdoms, only two cities, only two women whose imagery is involved, and we got to choose for God or against Him. There's no neutral ground. Well, I'm through talking now.
Usually we say don't send money, and we continue to say don't send money. I will say we covered your prayers, and we're getting old, and we could use some prayers. So that's what I got to say.
Keep those prayers going up for us old timers. Thank you, and may God bless you.